OMAD Keto versus OMAD Carbs, or in other words, eating one meal a day on a keto diet versus eating one meal a day with some carbohydrates in the diet. Can you do either one? Which one works better? Coming right up. So keto and OMAD are very popular concepts. So keto means that you lower your carbohydrates so much that your body raises its level of ketones, because ketones are a byproduct of fat metabolism. So as you lower your carbs, you teach your body to burn fat instead. And if you eat a lot of fat but not so much that your body needs to burn some fat from the body, then you're going to lose weight. And one meal a day is another way that people are very successful in losing weight, for two reasons. One is that if you only eat one meal a day, then you don't have the opportunity to eat so much. So most people end up eating less. But the other reason is that eating one meal a day, you reduce insulin resistance. And that's the key for both keto and OMAD, is the results you get is primarily from reducing insulin resistance and raising insulin sensitivity. So let's just look at that a little bit in detail. So insulin is a hormone that the body produces to get blood sugar out of the blood and into the cells. So whenever you eat food, your body makes some insulin, because all food raises blood sugar to some degree. If you eat carbs, then you raise blood sugar a lot more, because carbs are quicker absorbed, they're faster to absorb in the bloodstream, and they raise the blood glucose more, so you release more insulin to control the blood sugar. The other factor that influences insulin is the frequency with which you eat. So let's just look at an example here of a standard diet. If you follow the regular guidelines of eating frequent small meals, lots of carbohydrate, 50-60%, and snacking, so you get a total of about 6 meals a day. And here's a hypothetical example. You eat your breakfast at 8 and you get a little blood or a significant blood sugar spike because you eat 50-60% carbohydrate. Then after the meal, the blood sugar starts dropping, but it doesn't have time to drop very much before you have your mid-morning snack, and blood sugar goes up and insulin goes up. Then it starts dropping again, but then it's time for lunch, so now your blood sugar goes up. And as a result, here the green area here would be an optimal area. But if you eat frequent meals and high carbs, your body is always, your insulin is always responding to that frequent high carb meal. So it's always responding. It doesn't have time to recover, so it never gets back down into the optimal range. Now, what happens then is you develop insulin resistance, because if there's a lot of insulin in your bloodstreams, if there's a regular feature of always 6 times a day we get a bunch of insulin, then your cells say that we've had enough. We can't take, the insulin is pushing the sugar into the cell, but the cells are saying we've had enough. So the cells start resisting insulin. They start defending themselves against the insulin because there's too much. And now the insulin sensitivity of the cell drops and the cell resists, so that's what we call insulin resistance. So there are two factors. Food is always a factor. It always raises it a little bit, but carbs is the big factor because it raises insulin a lot, and frequency is the other factor, because the more often you eat, the less time the body has to recover. So that's the basis. Now let's look at how this would work on one meal a day, or OMAD. So if we do a ketogenic diet, we're going to eat primarily fat, moderate protein, and low starch, non-starchy vegetables, green leafy vegetables, cauliflower, broccoli, things that have a lot of fiber but very, very little carbohydrate. So if we're on that diet for a while, then our insulin response is going to be inside that green range. And even though we have a meal, then it's not going to rise so much because we're so low on carbs that the insulin, the blood sugar and the insulin is not going to rise enough to get us out of that optimal range. And I put 4 p.m. as the first meal. You could have, if you do OMAD, you could eat your meal at any time of day, but most people find that when they go low carb and they start eating less frequently, they're not typically hungry in the morning. So most people tend to eat maybe at 1 or 2 o'clock, or maybe they wait till dinner. So I just picked 4 p.m. as an example. And you eat your big meal, and your blood sugar rises a little bit, your insulin rises a little bit. It doesn't rise very much, and by 8 p.m. it has probably plateaued and leveled out. And again, everyone is different, so these are not necessarily exact numbers for any given person, but it's an example just to compare and contrast. So then if we do the same thing, we eat 1 meal a day at 4 o'clock, but let's say that we eat some potatoes. We eat some boiled potatoes, and we may even have a piece of bread with a meal. Now, the blood sugar is going to rise higher. Even though we just eat once a day, there's going to be a lot of carbs, a lot of food to respond to that raises the blood sugar. Insulin is released in response to that blood sugar, and we get outside of the optimal range. But the difference between this and this is that because we don't go back to eating right away, the blood sugar has a lot of time to go down, and the insulin has a lot of time to level off. We have a lot of time to become insulin sensitive. The difference between this and this is that because the blood sugar got higher, it's probably going to take a bit longer for it to level off. So the time that we spend in some insulin resistance with some insulin response versus the fasting state is going to be longer. It's going to be more effective on a keto diet than on a carb diet. Now, the beauty of the 1 meal a day is that the frequency is such a powerful variable that even if you eat some carbs, it's probably still going to work. May not work for everybody, but for most people, it's still going to work because you have enough of a fasting period. Okay? You eat all your food at once or in a 1-hour window, so you have 23 hours for the insulin to become, for your cells to become insulin sensitive, because there's all that time that you don't eat, that you don't trigger insulin. So this is not a good idea, even though it's the official recommendation to eat frequent meals. This is a big reason why the majority of the population is insulin resistant and why so many people are looking for weight loss solutions. Keto is one great solution to weight loss, and combining it with OMAD or intermittent fasting is going to make, it's like you're attacking it from 2 different directions. You're getting amplified results. And OMAD with carbs is probably still going to work. It's not going to work as well, but just the fact that you have such a long fasting window gives your body a long opportunity to become more insulin sensitive. The other thing, of course, is to keep in mind that not all carbs are equal. In order of worst to better, high fructose corn syrup is by far the worst. You want to stay away from that in any shape or form. You want to stay away from sugar, and you want to stay away from refined grains. Now, if you're going to add something, then you want to add some whole food starches, some natural foods like whole grain rye or steel cut oats or potatoes or sweet potato or brown rice, something that is pretty much in its normal state, where you have a lot of the fiber left in it. Here would be where you still haven't, if you eat these guys in red here, these items, then you would have a curve pretty much like this. You would have an insulin response, but you'd have enough time to repair the damage. And I wrote in green down here because non-starchy vegetables, non-starchy carbohydrates are still okay in any quantity, even if you're doing a ketogenic diet, because you cannot eat enough leafy greens and cauliflower and broccoli to get out of ketosis. There's too much fiber and too much water and not enough sugar in there. And if you eat the vegetables with the fiber and some fat, then that's going to buffer that insulin response even further. So give this a try and let me know how it works for you. I'd love some feedback if you try one versus the other, and let me know what your results are. As always, please share this video with as many people as possible. We need people to really understand why they're doing these things, and that's what these videos are about. So until next time, thanks for watching.